Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to give you just a minute as people start coming into the meeting. I know it takes just a second, so I'll wait for a minute till everybody can get into the meeting. Thank you all for being here today.
Buenas tardes a todos. Bueno, en primer lugar quería darles las gracias por su tiempo y por unirse a la llamada de hoy. Vamos a esperar unos cuantos minutos a que todo el mundo se una, ingrese a la llamada y estaremos dando inicio a nuestra sesión informativa de hoy.
So I'm going to assume that we've had introduce myself. My name is Rick Verhoeven, and I am the principal here at Monticello High School. I welcome you this afternoon. I asked to make sure that everybody has all of their screens muted. You may turn off your video if you like. You do not have to turn off your video, but you can turn off your video. I also want you to know that we have a Spanish interpreter with us today, Mr. Luis Grande. He will be interpreting in Spanish. There is an option on your screen at the bottom right to choose that interpretation if you'd like. So at this time, I'm going to give it to him for 1 second, and then we will proceed. Thank you.
Bueno, para dar inicio a la llamada, quiero presentarme. Mi nombre es Rick Verhoeven y soy el director de Monticello High School. Tendremos a un intérprete el día de hoy, Luis Grande, que los estará ayudando para todas aquellas familias que necesitan traducción al español. Y si lo desean, tendrán la opción en la parte inferior derecha de la pantalla, podrán seleccionar la opción de español. Y también les pido, por favor, que mantengan su cámara apagada, de modo que el ancho de banda se mantenga estable. Y de esta forma procederemos ahora a cambiarnos entre inglés y español.
Gracias, señor Grande. All right, so at this time, those people who would like the Spanish interpretation would click those buttons, and that way everyone can hear what we are saying in their chosen language. So first, thank you, Mustang families, for being here today. It's been a long time, and we certainly miss you. March 13th, seems like it's been decades ago. It's been 6 months almost to the day that we last saw students in our building or last officially saw our Mustang families, you as parents. So we have definitely missed you over this time, and we look forward to a time when we will be able to come together. I know right now we're looking at each other in Zoom, but we do look forward to the day when we can come together in person. During our informational meeting today, we would like to ask that if you have a question, please use the chat box. There is a function there, and just address your chat to Miss Patricia Dimitri. She is our host this morning, or this afternoon, I apologize. She will be taking those questions, and we will stop at various times during the presentation to answer questions. Hopefully the information that we share is up to date and will provide you with information, with answers to your questions, but I do know there probably will be some questions we just don't have the answers to, but we will do everything that we can do to answer all your questions this afternoon. I also want to share out that our PowerPoint presentation is already on our homepage, and once this presentation is over, we will it is being recorded, and we will upload that presentation to our webpage if you'd like to look at it again at another time. So now just kind of getting into some of the informational pieces that we have going on. A week ago yesterday, our school board voted to start Albemarle County Public Schools September 8th, and that we would start in a virtual beginning. And that virtual beginning would be in what they called phase 2. It's not phase 2 of what the governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia has. He has 3 phases. Albemarle County Public Schools has come up with their own set of phases going along with the governor, but they have 5 phases, which I will go through those phases momentarily. The last bullet on this page this morning, and folks, I do want to, would like to say something, that our slides have a ton of information on there. Please, you probably don't scramble to try to read everything. I try to make sure I go through all the bullets that are on there. I try to talk through it, and I try to talk slow. Sometimes I get loud because I get excited, and that's the nature of my voice, and I apologize if I do get too loud. But I know it's a lot of information that's on the pages. I don't want you to get overwhelmed as you look at them. That's why we made sure that we have uploaded this PowerPoint to our homepage, so you may look at it at your leisure, okay? So the last bullet that's on there, the VHSL, which is the Virginia High School League, voted on July 27th to choose. They had 3 options that they were looking at for the start of athletics and activities for high schools in the state of Virginia. And they opted for phase or option 3, which means that winter sports and activities would start in December. Fall sports and activities would start the end of March or end of February, beginning of March. And that spring sports and activities would start the end of March, beginning of April. That information, Mr. Pearman, our athletic director, continually updates his website. He has held Zooms, and he is always open to phone calls or information that you would like to get from him. He is very up to date and very involved in the Virginia High School League, so he has a lot of information that he could share with you. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to slide number 2 here. So I mentioned a minute ago that our school division enacted 5 phases. And so phase 1 right here is where we were in the spring. March 13th, we went into phase 1, which means every single student in Albemarle County Public Schools, which is about 14,000 students across 25 schools, they all went to virtual learning, and we continued on that. Phase 2, or stage 2, is what the school board most recently voted on. And they said that it would be virtual learning for most students, and there would be some in-person learning for a limited number of students. I will go through who that is in just a minute. Stage 3 is still virtual learning for most students and in-person learning for a moderate number of students. Stage 4 is virtual learning by choice, and we sent home, the school division has sent home surveys, and we sent home surveys asking for you to choose what type of learning you would like, whether it was hybrid or virtual, and that's where that comes in. And that's also where hybrid comes in, and I promise you, I will discuss those in depth as we go through this PowerPoint. And then stage 5 is where students have the choice of virtual learning, but it would be in-person learning for the majority of our students. All right, moving right along. So progression between stages, the school board decided that we were going to start in phase 2. That means that regardless of what happens between now and the end of the first quarter, which is approximately the first week of November, November 6th, I'll say, we would be in phase 2. Nothing changes for the first 9 weeks of the year. Halfway through that first 9 weeks, which is on or about the first week of October, the superintendent, Dr. Haas, will make a recommendation to the school board as to where we should be going for the second quarter of the year. If we start in phase 2, his options are to go to phase 3 or to revert back to phase 1. Okay, he cannot go from phase 2 to phase 4 or phase 2 to phase 5. He has to go through the progression. Every 4.5 weeks, he will be making a recommendation to the school board as to what the next quarter would be. So what helps Dr. Haas make the decisions that he's making? Number one, it's where we are with COVID-19 in the Commonwealth of Virginia and in Albemarle County. They are looking at the trends on the test rate of positivity. I believe this morning, the state of Virginia was over a 7% test rate of positivity. In Albemarle County in the Thomas Jefferson Health District was, I believe, at 5.4%, but no, I'm not 100%. It was 5.4. It might have been 5.3. I'm just not sure, but they're looking at those numbers to help make the decision. They are looking at guidance from the Thomas Jefferson Health District itself and from the CDC, and then they are making a recommendation to the school board. Ms. Dimitri, we doing okay? Any
Yes,
questions yet? No questions yet?
no questions yet.
All right. So as I explained a second ago, phase one or stage one, Albemarle County Public Schools, everyone's in virtual learning. Phase two, which is probably what you want to make sure you know at where we are right now, is virtual learning for the majority of our students and in-person learning for a limited number of students. And so I can make that, when you look at that, we're looking at students that could come into the building would be the students that do not have internet access. And you might ask the question, well, how do you know if we have internet access or not? We sent out a survey, Albemarle County Public Schools sent out a survey, and we sent out a survey directly asking you as a parent what internet access you had so we could help with decisions there. Students with special needs that cannot access the curriculum that have a specific IEP would be welcomed into the building. And also some of our English language learning students that are a WIDA 1 or WIDA 2 would have access to the building. Those students that come into the building would be grouped in small groups of 7 to 10 students. They would have a learning coach with them, which would be a volunteer teacher or a volunteer teaching assistant that would be there supervising them. They would still continue with their synchronous learning that was taking place during the school day for all the other students, and they would be working on their asynchronous learning as well. When I go to this top part right here that I highlighted to students without internet access, I have a separate slide for that. And so when they look at that, they are looking at students that have, we are inviting students in that have absolutely no internet or where they live cannot handle a Wi-Fi hotspot. So those students, we will contact them and they will, from the form that you filled out, we will contact you and let you know the information that you would need to know based on, do you want to come into the building? Would you like us to mail you a zip drive? Would you like paper copies of the work? Those would be some options you would have. We do have families that do not have internet access, but they live in an area where they can receive a hotspot. And so if that's the case, Albemarle County will provide them a hotspot to use during the virtual learning phase. We also have folks that live in an area where they might be able to receive Comcast internet, but due to financial obligations, they could not afford Comcast. And if that's the case, we would be asking you to contact the Department of Technology, and they would be working hand in hand with folks with Comcast to get them access to the internet. Stage 3, if we're in stage 2 now, the next phase that we would go into would be stage 3, which is still virtual learning for most and in-person learning to a moderate number of students. The biggest change there is really our PK through grade 3 would all be in person in school buildings. That's the biggest change right there. Phase 4 is when we get into all elementary school students would be invited into buildings, and middle and high school students would be working on a hybrid schedule, which I will go in depth in just a minute. And then there are the ability for families to choose to still continue to receive instruction virtually. And then when we're back in stage 4, the superintendent can make a decision that Albemarle County Public Schools would be able to begin athletic and academic and activities back with the Virginia High School League. So this slide right here, first is some information that is shared by the Center for Disease Control. Then I have some information from Albemarle County Public Schools, and then a draft calendar that is there. So the first thing I'd like to share from the Center for Disease Control, currently they put out a document, and their document is recommending that schools itself do not do individual screenings on students. They believe that students' families should be doing a regular check with students and maintaining and letting us know where they are with their health. I know that we are bringing our nurses back in starting next Friday, and they will start temperature checks of everybody that is entering the building, because we have new teachers that would be returning either virtually or in person. But anybody that does come in our building starting next Friday will have temperature checks and a welfare check to make sure that they have done their own personal welfare check for the day. But the Center for Disease Control website, excuse me, has a ton of information that is there for you at your leisure to look at and determine what information is important for you. Our school division is requiring that our classrooms, when we do have in-person learning, that our classrooms would be situated so that every student was in a social distance position, which meant that they were had a 6-foot distance from another person all the way around them. And our school division also has a policy where every student and adult in the building will be wearing a mask, and the mask is not an option to come off during the day. It is a mask that would be on all day. Obviously, we know there would be a time when the students were eating or getting a drink or something like that where they would take it off. But if it wasn't during one of those times, the mask would be required. But that link is there for you to look at on your leisure to explore and see the information that the CDC is sharing about schools. Albemarle County has also come up with a website, the Return to School website. And that website, as it loads, is packed with information from Albemarle County about what the expectations are for our families as they return. All right, so here we go. We have, as I stated a minute ago, we are, our school division has started with a new web page. So it looks like the page that I had linked here did not roll over into it. And I'm just trying to see. All right, so I need to apologize to you with this new website starting up this morning. It does not look like they have the information that I had in my PowerPoint, and I apologize to you immensely for that. And I will make sure that I correct that information for you and update that link. But at the Albemarle County Return to School webpage has a link for parents, a link for students, a link for staff, and a link for community members to research when we talk about healthy students, when we talk about healthy facilities and clean school environment, what it looks like for transportation. All of those topics are discussed in an Albemarle County document that you can refer to. The other thing that's going to be a little bit challenging for me is there's another web page in our links that I had gone to, which also outlines what virtual learning is going to look like in the fall. So when we get to that page, I will see if that link is working. And I apologize to you folks that that link is not working. As you can see, the rollover has taken all my links around. So I will look at when I look at the calendar right here, and I know you are not seeing the calendar right now. And again, I apologize for that. The first day of school is September 8th. And normally, as you know, as we go through a school year, there are various days that are off during the school year at the end of 9 weeks. So teachers can have work days and professional development days. That's not the case this year. This year, they have taken all the teacher work days and all the professional development days and put them prior to the start of school on September 8th. So teachers return to work on August 18th, and they will work up until September 4th. There's a long weekend that weekend for Labor Day. So the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th is a weekend and a Monday, Labor Day, and school begins on Tuesday, September 8th. It is straight through until the end of the first 9 weeks, which is on or around Election Day. And then the first semester ends the end of January, and the second semester begins the first part of February, and the end of the school year is on or around June 13th. I don't want to say that it's 100% June 13th, but I believe it is June 13th. That calendar, I promise you, I will get uploaded. I apologize to you that my link is not working. All right, so I think the biggest change for us as a school division this year, other than having to work in an unusual pandemic situation, is we went from an 8-period rotation day to a 4x4 schedule. And so that is a really, really big change. And so when I say that, so for parents that are freshmen, coming into our school, traditionally students, and as you'll get your schedule, you have 8 classes. You chose 8 classes. There are 4 core classes. There's a couple required classes. For a freshman, it would be health and PE, freshman seminar, and then a couple of electives. Traditionally in the past, a student would have 4 classes on an A day and 4 different classes on a B day, and they would rotate those, and they would have those 8 classes the entire year. Well, this year, because of the virtual start and not knowing how long we would be virtually, and to ease some of the workload on students and on teachers, we decided that it was in the best interest of everybody to go to a 4x4, where students would only focus on 4 classes at a time, maximum. They would not have to worry about assignments for 8 classes and being on Zoom in virtual classes for 8 different classes. They would only do it for 4 classes. So if you look at my second bullet here, I have a hypothetical schedule here, but I might, in my 8 classes in the first semester, I might have Algebra 2, English 11, Marching Band, and AP Chemistry. So I have 3 classes that are core classes, and I have 1 elective class, a marching band. Second semester, starting in early February, the end of January, I would have a core class in U.S. history, jazz band, photography, and internship. Now, when I look at that schedule, that looks like I have 3 pretty challenging academic courses in the first semester, and then I have 3 electives in the second semester. So when we see a schedule like that, we would ask our counselors to meet with students. They're going to meet with everybody virtually, and hopefully we would be able to rearrange that schedule a little bit so that a student is not taking too many core courses in one semester. We would really like it to be balanced, where they had like English 11 and Algebra 2 one semester, and then science and history the second semester mixed in with their electives. Okay. Now, what's really big when we talk about the 4x4, so if I am taking that, let me just show this back to you. If I'm taking the Algebra 2 class, and I'm taking English 11, and I'm taking AP Chemistry. So those 3 courses each have what's called SOL test that is associated with it. And that SOL test is a Commonwealth of Virginia standardized test, standards of learning test. And there are 11 verified credits that a student can take. And depending on which diploma you are seeking, if you're seeking an advanced diploma, you need a few more verified credits. And if you're taking a standard, if you're looking for a standard diploma, there are a few less requirements. But regardless, in the past, everybody took SOLs in May and June. Now, you will take an SOL test when your course is ending. So if I'm in AP Chemistry, English 11, and Algebra 2, all three of those courses have an SOL test with them, and I would take them at the end. It'd be in January at some time, because that was a first semester course. Now, I know that's a ton of information. So before I even talk about AP testing, do I need to take a breather for a second for you and let some of that sink in and see if Ms. Dimitri has any questions for us?
You are good to continue.
All right, Kali, this is a great Zoom. You all are just Johnny on the spot, ready with everything. So I hope the information I'm sharing with you is good. That, again, I'm apologizing that I don't have the links that I was trying to pull up to you with them changing the web page this morning. So I do apologize for that, but I promise you we will make that up when we post it on our web page. So the second part of this, the second bullet up there is if your student is taking an AP course. So the AP is not associated with our school division, and it's not associated with the Commonwealth of Virginia. AP courses, it's a separate fee that is paid for it, and that test is given in May. And it's a nationwide test, so it's something that we have no control over. And so all AP tests are going to be in May. So yes, it does mean that a student might take an AP course from September to January and not be in that course from February to May when they take the test. We do, however, have a little bit of a plan for that. So our plan is when a student has an AP course first semester, we are going to set up a review session for students after spring break. So from the spring break until testing time, working with students who want to come in and have a review of some of the information they had first semester, right? All right, so I am going, so that link right there is, again, the link to the calendar that is not working for us right now. So in the spring last year, when we left and everything was crazy on March 13th, I promise you, when we left, all of us thought we would be out to spring break. And when spring break was over, we were going to head back into school and finish up. We thought it was going to be 2 weeks and back in. And so we just didn't have a clear plan. I mean, there wasn't a plan. And then we found out that the pandemic was getting wider and wider, and schools across the country were shut down. And so we had to come up with a plan. And so we brought a plan up where students were not given new information. They were only working on old information that had already been taught. So it was more of a review. We limited the amount of information that was required for them to turn back into us. So when I say that, that means that I put the bar, or we put the bar right here, okay? We said, look, it's a pandemic, it's a crazy situation, and we've got to finish up the school year. The state is doing the same thing. They canceled SOL tests for everybody. And so there was a free pass given to them. So the bar was here, and we finished the school year there. Well, folks, we can't continue in life with the bar here, because that's not going to help our students move forward as they look to go to their next step in life, whether their next step in life is into the workforce, into the military, or onto another educational institute. So that means that that bar needs to get back up here. And so that's where we're going to be this fall. That bar is going to be back up here, okay? We are going to have a specific bell schedule that is going to be designed not to put students on Zooms for an hour and a half at a time and have 4 of those during the day. That is not the goal. The goal is to make sure that we have specific synchronous instruction and specific asynchronous instruction that is going on. And so some may be saying right now, well, Mr. Verhoeven, what do you mean synchronous and asynchronous? What does all that mean? So if I'm looking at synchronous learning, I am saying that I am like right now, we are having a synchronous Zoom meeting. And so we are interacting. I am sharing some information with you and it is live and we are talking about this right now. And so every day there's going to be synchronous instruction with every class. It's not going to be an hour and a half for every class stuff, okay? There's also going to be some asynchronous learning that has taken place. And so what does that mean? That means that I've told you, or I have shared with you that I'm going to have this PowerPoint uploaded on our homepage that you can go to it and look at it. And so the teacher might have the exact same expectations that says, here is the assignment in Schoology. This is what we talked about during our synchronous time together. I would like for you to go into a Schoology and complete this assignment. All right, I'm going to stop for a second. Ms. Dimitri, where are we at right now?
Yes, sir. I do have a few very good questions. So the first is, with stage 3 only bringing in K through 3 students into school buildings, that would see the hybrid schedule not starting for high school students until probably the beginning of 2nd semester. So how does that work if sports begin in December?
So the decision for us to join into the Virginia High School League would be made by the superintendent on or about the first week of December, because it's always made at the 4-week period, 4.5-week period of the 9 weeks. So we would start the second quarter on or about November 6th. So prior to us going on winter break, winter sports and activities would start December 14th. Prior to that time, the superintendent would make a recommendation and he would say, at this time, I'm recommending, not voting, excuse me. I'm recommending for us to go to phase 4 for the third 9 weeks. And so if the school board says, yes, we accept that proposal, that recommendation, then at that point, students would be able to participate in athletics. But it's based on the recommendation made by the superintendent at that time, which should be prior to sports starting December 14th. I hope that answers it.
Thank you. Another good question. What's the plan for 0 block classes within this new semester schedule? Do students get to keep those or does it bump out one of their other electives?
So currently we only have 2 0 block, we have 1 0 block class, which is our marching band class. And we have an afternoon class, which is our set design. And so currently both of those classes are still offered, but marching band is not being offered as a 0 period. It's being offered as one of the 8 courses, but we are offering both courses, just not as a before school or after school. Because currently they would be virtual instruction right now. And to help with that, if my brain is wrapped around what I visually saw on our schedule board, I do believe that marching band and I do believe that set design currently are both scheduled for the 2nd semester, with the possibility of it being in-person instruction at some point.
Thank you. These 2 questions are kind of connected, so I'm going to ask them as like a 2-parter. Will there be clear expectations for teachers and students surrounding this virtual learning, and will teachers be monitored to ensure that there's not a default to asynchronous learning, and what would that look like?
So that is great question. So first, last year, the Virginia Department of Education did not require us to take attendance for it. So let me back up. Up until March 13th, we took attendance every single day, every period. But from March 13th until the end of the school year, there was a waiver given on attendance. Well, that period is over. We said everybody held the bar down here because we just hit this in panic mode. So what did we have to do? We had to recreate the wheel. So there is an attendance expectation back again. So starting September 8th, every teacher is going to be taking a virtual attendance. We have some students that may not be able to chime in virtually. There will also be a way to asynchronously take attendance by checking the work that is completed at a point during the day. So yes, there will be an attendance checked every single period. Every teacher will have to have a virtual Zoom every single period. Secondly, it was a great question about how are we going to monitor to make sure that the teacher has a Zoom. So by default, teachers are going to invite their administrator into every single class. So we have the option to do learning walks and walk into that class at any time. So teachers will set up a Zoom and they're going to say, and this is just a made up thing, but my class starts at 9:30, my Zoom starts at 9:30 and it's going to go to 10:10. So we would get an invite from Miss Patricia Dimitri, an English 11 teacher, and she's teaching English Lit. And I would get an invite to Mr. Verhoebeck, who is over the English department. And that invite would say, in my calendar, Ms. Dimitri has a virtual period from 10:30 or from 9:30 to 10:10. I would then be able to go in and check that class to make sure that it was up and running. So there is a level of accountability on both ends. And I agree with you 100%, the need for the accountability. Accountability on students being there and accountability for our staff doing what they're supposed to be doing. I agree with you 100%. So thank you for that question.
Thank you, sir. You're good to continue.
All right. I hope, folks, I hope that answers your questions. And please feel free to ask those questions. That's why we're here. And if I don't know the answer, I'm going to give you the round shoulder and say, you know, I just don't know the answer to that. But I will always promise you this. I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm going to do my best to answer the question to the best of my ability. And you can expect that from me and our staff every single day. Okay. All right. So as we move along, one of the questions comes up, and actually it was the last question, but we might not be into phase 4 until the second semester, which would be this, the hybrid learning. So when we talk about the hybrid learning, what are we looking at? So we said that every student is going to have 4 classes per semester. And so the hybrid learning is based on the number of students we can get into a building and make sure that they are safe, okay? Right now, there are school divisions all over the South that are starting to open up, and they are kind of, do not take this the wrong way, but they're kind of the experiment right now. They are opening up, and schools that are not opening up till later this fall are going to be able to watch and see how these school systems open up and what they're doing that is successful and what they're doing that's not successful, so we can help make a plan for us that is the best possible plan. So right now there's schools across the South that are struggling because there's students that are testing positive right now. And so what we're hoping in this hybrid model is bringing in a small cohort of students that you are always with the same group of students as you go through the day, not from 9:30 to 4 o'clock, but you're with the same group of students in your AP chemistry class. You're with the same group of students in your marching band class. You're with the same group of students in your PE class. It's not 25 students, it's 50% of it or less. So we're thinking if there's 25 kids in a normal class, you're looking at 10, 12 max that you would have in that class. And by always knowing who you're going to see on those days, it's more of a tracer. The other thing we are looking at is not just ringing a bell at, currently, if you were to walk in at Monticello High School at any time during a normal school year and the end of the period bell rang at 10:30, you would see 1,200 students pick their books up and it would be a mad dash for them to go to their next class, to go to Mustang Morning, to go to the cafeteria, to go on a journey to where they were next. We're looking at a completely different thing when we get to hybrid learning. We're looking at an extended time between classes. We're looking at not releasing everybody at the same time. We're only looking at 25 to 50% of our students in the building. So instead of 1,200 students that are going at one time, we're thinking it's going to be more like 500 students that would possibly be moving. And then we're going to limit the movement there. So we're really hoping it would be 200 to 300 students that were moving at one time, getting to a location, and then another 200 to 300 students that would be moving. So we are looking at a plan, but we're also going to watch how these schools in the South do and make sure that the plan that we have is the best plan based on what's been successful for them and not successful for them. All of our classes would be set up for social distancing. Teachers would be working with their students still synchronously and asynchronously. So they would be seeing their students 2 days a week. So if I'm in group A, based on the alphabet, I would have classes on Monday and Wednesday synchronously, which means I'm in person. And then on Friday, I would have on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, I would have an asynchronous day. Okay. Tuesday and Thursday, I would be able to chime in to the teacher when they were running their Zoom. And then Friday would be all asynchronous work. If I was in group B, the second part of the alphabet, it would be just the opposite. I'd be in class on Tuesday and Thursday. I'd have synchronous on Monday and Wednesday, and then I'd be able to have asynchronous learning on Friday. Now, one of the big highlights up here, and I don't think it's on my next slide, but I can answer it right here. You see, I have transportation listed right there. And so families that use school provided transportation, obviously, if there are siblings in the household, we would let everybody ride the bus. Our buses normally hold 50 to 75 students, but due to social distancing, we're really looking at 12 to 18 students on a bus. And so when we do that, we're having to limit who can be on the bus and who cannot be on the bus. If by chance we have a blended family and they have multiple last names in that family, we would always default to what is best for the family. And that would be to allow them to go to school on the same day if the parent so chooses that. So if there was a last name Johnson and a last name Verhoeven, and two different ends of the alphabet, it would be up to the parent to say, hey, can we both go on the same day? We would absolutely make that happen, okay? Ms. Dimitri, we okay?
Good to continue.
All right. So a couple weeks ago, we sent out a survey asking, for some of your concerns, some of your questions. We immediately within the first day had over 200 responses. So thank you, Mustang families, for that. And we looked at those responses. We tried to put as many of the responses together that were together, and then we tried to answer them. We put all of those on our homepage, and those are currently listed on the Monticello High School homepage. But we also took a couple slides and just wanted to go through, and so you could see this might help answer some of the questions you might have. Number one, the question about the 4x4. We will be on the 4x4 for the entire year. That is not something just when we are virtual. We have made a decision to go for the 4x4, and we will be on it all year. There will be a decision made by the Albemarle County School Division as to where we go for the 21-22 school year. But for the 2021 school year, we are on the 4x4. Will students in the 4x4 still have PE? Yes. Will there still be virtual PE and virtual health classes? Yes, there is yes to both of those. And let me just say that there is a big difference between what a student does for a virtual PE class and what a student does when we are on the Albemarle County all virtual learning. Because when we're in the all virtual learning, the teacher is there giving direct instruction during synchronous learning. When a student chooses the virtual PE class, it is their, they have to go out and complete assignments on their own without any synchronous instruction at all. So there are both virtual and non-virtual classes going on at the same time. I tried to answer this question a little bit earlier. We're trying to make sure that schedules are balanced so that students and families will know that they are balanced. Folks, the schedules are due to come out on August 24th, not before 4 p.m. that day, but the schedules are due to go live at that time. And so everybody would be able to see what their schedule looks like. That would still give us an entire week before school starts. Actually, it would give us 2 weeks before school starts for our teachers or for parents to contact counselors and work with them if there was scheduling issues. Okay. So this question is just it's a great question, and it's just one of those things. So if I am a student and I get math first semester, I may not have math second semester, which means I wouldn't get math again to the fall of 21. That is something that may happen. But I can tell you this, there are a lot of school divisions that border Albemarle County Public Schools that run the 4x4, and their students are very successful and have not had any concerns with that. But I will say that is something that could happen. It also could happen that you took classes this spring, you had math this spring, and we hope this doesn't happen, but by chance, we're still in a pandemic the following school year, 21-22, and there's a possibility you may not have math that fall, but not to the next spring. So, you know, with only taking 4 classes, that is a pitfall of that. Freshman orientation. So we are going to have a freshman orientation. Normally we have Fresh Start, and normally we would be having Fresh Start this week coming up right now. We always have it during our new teacher orientation week. So we would be running Fresh Start Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I believe would have been our days. But because of the pandemic and not being able to do it in person, we are going to have a virtual Fresh Start. It will be, all that information will be shared with you and communicated to you, but we are going to have that, and that will be completed. We're also going to have, if you're a freshman parent right now, there'll be information you'll be receiving about exchanging your middle school computer to get a new computer at the high school. So all of that information will be coming out to you, and those dates are probably going to be starting on or around August 24th to start with computer transitions and to look at the freshman Fresh Start. Okay. So we also are going to, we will have a back to school night as well. The back to school night will be virtual, but we will have that. And we are going to use Mr. Mitchum and our LTI, and Ms. Dimitri are working on setting up a flip grid for parents and students. And a flip grid is just kind of like Hollywood squares from the old days. You can tell my age, or the Brady Bunch when you looked at it, or currently on Zoom, you see everybody. We would have a flip grid, and you'd be able to click on the flip grid. And when you clicked on it, our teachers would have uploaded a video, which would be a bio of themselves. And so it's kind of like a hologram, and they'd be able to give you a little bit of information about who they are, just kind of as a welcome, because you may not be able to see them in person right away. But we are also going to have Zoom meetings in a back to school setup. So all the teachers would be running back to school nights, so parents, and they would be inviting parents into those Zoom meetings. There were many, many, many questions about special ed and 504 and IEPs. And so an IEP is an individualized educational plan, and we want to keep it that way. It's an individualized education plan. So if you have a question concerning your son or daughter's IEP, we ask that you contact Ms. Dimitri, who's working with us today. She's the administrator overseeing special education, or Mr. John Kenny, who is the department chair for special education. They will help you with those concerns. If you have a 504 and you have questions about your son or daughter's 504 plan, please contact Miss Lita Johnson. She is our 504 coordinator. Okay, but again, it's an individual educational plan, and we don't want to put out answers out there about your son or daughter. Just contact them, and those folks will be glad to help you. All right, Health Medical Science Academy. For those who don't know, the high schools have academies associated with them currently. Albemarle High School has MESA, which is the Math Engineering Science Academy. Monticello has HEMSA, which is the Health Medical Science Academy, and Western Albemarle has the Environmental Science Academy. So each high school has an academy. I will say this, Monticello has the academy with the most out-of-district students in it. So we have an enormous academy that draws more from Western side and Albemarle, the Northern feeder pattern, than the other two academies, which is great for our school. It's great for our academy because it shows the number of people that want to be a part of the health medical science field and getting a start in moving forward. So a lot of questions have come up about the Health Medical Science Academy, and obviously when you're dealing with health and medical sciences, you're thinking biology, you're thinking labs, you're thinking touching people and touchy-feely stuff. We will continue to do labs. We have, our teachers are working on making sure that we have materials, expendable materials that we can ship out, either mail directly to students or have families pick them up. We're getting ready to do a lab. They would make sure a week in advance that materials were sent to you. They are working on programs that have virtual labs. So we were doing a tremendous amount of work on making sure that our labs are up to date and ready for students to be able to participate in those. I mean, I'm saying that for HMSA, but I promise you our earth science teachers, our analytical food science teachers are doing the exact same thing. They're wanting to make sure that students have expendable materials that we can ship home so they can do labs. If you're in culinary arts, we're going to be doing the same thing, working on ways to provide materials so that we can continue to have labs and make sure that students are getting hands-on experiences. K-Tech. So Monticello has the highest number of students that attend K-Tech. We have over 125 students that attend K-Tech on a daily basis. I apologize for being tongue-tied there. But so we have over 125 students that attend K-Tech, and K-Tech currently is only going to run on an AM schedule. So that means that everybody that is enrolled in K-Tech would have K-Tech in the morning, and they would be at Monticello Zoom classes in the afternoon. They are currently going to start virtually, just like we are, okay? They are working on transportation as well as to what that would look like when we go back to in-person learning. And the courses at K-Tech, specifically the EMT program, they are making sure that everyone is still going to be able to get their certification by doing the program. I answered some of this a minute ago on transportation. I feel like I don't need to go through this entire slide again, but I told you that, or I explained that we would be able to help you with transportation, making sure that your family was not split just because it was a blended family and there might be different last names, or there were foster children or whatever. We would make sure that families stayed together. AP and dual enrollment classes, I did talk a little bit about this as well. There will be some courses that are first semester and some courses that are second semester. I can promise you that the scheduling team did we were conscientious about looking at the schedule and making sure that if we have 8 AP language classes, that we were going to offer 4 AP language classes first semester and 4 AP classes second semester. If we had 5, we were not going to take 4 and put them in one semester and 1 in the other. We did our best to evenly break them down because we knew that students would say, I want it first semester, I want it second semester. So we tried really hard to make sure that they were balanced. I did discuss about how we were going to help students with intervention for review prior to the AP test. The teachers would work with them and have review Zooms, or it could be review in person, depending on where we are in this pandemic. General classes, I also think that I tried to answer most of this already. We are set up in our building for classes to be at social distancing, which means that all desks would be 6 feet apart. I did explain that schedules would be mailed out or Power School goes live August 24th after 4 o'clock, and that the first day of school will be September 8th. We did talk about there was a lot of concern in the spring that teachers were using multiple platforms, and that was a concern for our school division. Last year was the very first year that we had the program Schoology, and so when Schoology started for us, the goal for every teacher last year was to use Schoology mainly as a tool for your syllabus and class organization. The goal this year is for every teacher to use Schoology 24/7 and not to be using other programs. So we are hoping that every teacher in Albemarle County, and when I say every teacher, I'm talking secondary students, which would be your Western students, your Albemarle students, and your Monticello students, grades 9 through 12, would be using Zoom and Schoology for their class meetings and where their assignments would be. Right now, we talked about not overloading students with homework. So there is a homework policy that is out there, and the homework policy will still be in effect with teachers when we are virtual. So if a student is doing work in a class, they should not be getting 4 or 5 hours of homework for each class a week. There is a limited number of hours that students are allowed to do homework per class. And especially since we're on the 4x4, there's only 4 classes, and they have to adhere to that homework time period. And so that information is found in the Albemarle County web pages. Can courses be taken within 2 days and not drag out over 3 or 4 days? So when we are looking at the bell schedules, currently right now in front of the assistant superintendent, I held up my finger for 3. Debbie Collins has 3 schedules that have been recommended to her, and that she is working with the school division and the school board to choose which schedule is the best as we move forward. But I can promise you the schedule will not be 90 minutes in front of a computer on a Zoom, okay, every day. But it will be a period of Zoom every day for every class, okay? That is going to be the expectation. So this is a great question for, if you're only taking 4 classes, how does that affect you for your diploma? It doesn't affect you at all. You are still able to get every class that you need for graduation and take extra classes if you want. I do know that we will have a meeting if there's any senior parents here. We'll be sending out information. Our counseling department will be sending out information on August 12th to seniors. And we will have a meeting on August 17th, a Zoom countywide, that will talk about early graduation, that will talk about the ramifications of early graduation if you are a student athlete, and possible effects. So we will have our counseling directors from all of the comprehensive high schools, the principals from the comprehensive high schools, and the athletic directors will be on this. It will be a panel type meeting to go over information for seniors. So that was a lot of information, but before I go into, before I answer questions, Mr. Mucha, I want to say, just like every day, our mission is to work with your children, to treat your children like they're our children, like we're family. And we realize that you have the most important person in the entire world is your child. Okay. I get it. I have 3. I have a grandchild now. I have a son-in-law. I have a daughter-in-law. They are the most important people in the entire world to me. And so it's tough to give the most important person in the world and pass it off to somebody else and say, excuse me, will you take care of them for the entire day and make sure you treat them as the most important thing in the world to you? Because we get 1,200 most important people in the world every single day. Well, you know what? That's our job. Our job is to make sure that every child that comes into our building, whether physically walking through those front doors or virtually coming into a virtual classroom, they are the most important thing at that time. And we will do everything we can do to ensure that your child receives an education that is here, that the bar is not here, and that if your child is struggling and they're falling a wayside because they're struggling with virtual learning, we will make sure that Miss Hannah, who is our Region 10 counselor, Miss Cindy, who works with Elk Hill, who is a mental health associate, that they will be able to reach out and help if there are situations where kids are struggling. Okay, it's hard to sit in front of a computer all day. Okay, and it's even more challenging when you as a parent are used to your child going to school, used to feeling comfortable that they're in a building and someone's there physically watching them. Now you still have to go to work, and that child's still expected to do school, and they may have a younger sibling that they're going to have to watch at the same time. It's challenging. Our job is to make sure that we engage those students. And if we don't engage them, that we are reaching out to them and making sure that we are not losing them and that we are keeping with them. Because it is the most important person in the world, not just to you, but to us. It's for both of us. Okay? I want you to understand that is our goal every single day, to make sure we take care of your child. All right, Ms. Dimitri, do we have questions?
Yes, 2 really good ones. I think everyone will benefit from hearing your responses. The first is Monticello going to be holding PSATs and SATs this year?
So that's a great question. So currently there are SATs that are scheduled at the end of August and at Albemarle High School. And from my understanding, those SATs are going to be canceled, that they are not going to hold that session. Right now, the PSATs scheduled for October at Monticello High School have not been canceled. If you want my personal opinion, I think they will be canceled. I do not know how we can have those PSATs. And I say that because the AP organization is $1 billion a year profit organization, and they still do a paper pencil test. And they do a paper pencil test so they can ensure that students are sitting in a desk taking it, okay? The AP needs to change a little bit on what they're doing and become a little bit up into the 21st century and have it on a computer. And so I'm sorry, I'll get off that soapbox and just explain it a little bit. Right now, I do not believe we will have PSATs, but they haven't been canceled. And I apologize for going on that rant on that $1 billion a year business.
Second question, are we going to have virtual clubs?
So that's a great question. And that is a question that I am hoping to say yes to. That is a topic that I have scheduled for us to discuss with our faculty when we have our faculty work days in August, and try to figure out how can we set up virtual activities for our students to do. We normally have a club day every other Friday for the students that are in our building. Club day is a fabulous time. You can walk around our building. There are places in our building where kids are making cakes. There are places that are playing Frisbee. There are people that are making pick-me-up cards. They walk around. There are different signs around the building where kids make positive things for students to read. So I hope that we are going to have clubs. I can't guarantee that right now, and I don't know what a virtual club would look like. But I know that it is a topic for our discussion when teachers return in the next 2 weeks.
And this question is connected to that, and I could answer it, but I think that you'll do it far better than I would. Much of high school is social. Will the online classes provide opportunities for students to interact with each other?
So we all know that high school is social, and it's probably one of the biggest things about going to high school is the social part, okay? And there is a need for a social time frame. And so this year, as teachers are making up their classroom, they're going to have the ability, because we didn't have this ability in the spring, but they're going to have the ability to schedule breakout rooms and allow kids to work with other kids in breakout rooms. They could be short breakout rooms, but they are going to have breakout rooms and allow students to be able to interact with each other. That is something that is going to be scheduled. And I know every parent here that's in this meeting today had that question in the back of their mind about school being social. To the parent that asked the question, the social mental health of our students is enormous. And we want to make sure that we are providing what we can when we're not in person. So yes, we will do everything we can do to make sure that there is social time for students during class. And to be honest with you, it might be that, you know, the teacher leaves their Zoom classroom on for a little bit longer so people can chat with each other. I know when we have our Zoom faculty meetings, it's much like the meeting we're having today, but at the end, we let people talk for a few minutes and say hi to each other and wave and kind of be silly. So yes, we will do everything we can do for that time of social activities.
No more questions.
No more questions. Wow, you have been fabulous as always. Our Monticello community is just a special place. We had an all-county meeting yesterday with people in leadership, and we had to pick a color that we associated ourselves with. And it was only supposed to be one color. And my reply was, well, I can't pick one color. And they were like, what do you mean you can't pick one color? And it's because I'm all about the black and gold. Monticello is black and gold, and I can't get around all my colors being associated with that. I used to work at Albemarle High School, and I had red, white, and blue in my blood, and I've had a complete blood transfusion, and I am completely black and gold, and this Monticello community is an incredible place. So we miss you. We miss you tremendously. Our school is empty mortar and bricks, and without you, it is a barren place. So we look forward to the time that we can be in person. We know 100% you will be hearing from us with communications. If you haven't filled out the survey yet, please do, or send your information in. But we will be seeing you again shortly with Zoom meetings coming up in the next couple weeks. If we don't have any more questions, folks, I hope that you have a wonderful rest of the day on Friday and a great weekend. Thank you all.
Hey, Rick.
Hey, Hank, how are you, sir?
All right. I came in late. Been working on this new crisis management document, and I've been calling around trying to get more information. So that's really been my focus for the last hour or so.
I'm sure.
I will get it done. I'm almost finished, but it's a new template, and it's giving, allowing you to go back over and get more information than what we had last year, a little bit more. So I think I'm working through it.
Well, thank you, Hank. I appreciate it.
No problem. I just letting you know why I was a little late.
Oh, you're all right.
I called to the office and I talked to Jan, and I was getting some information from her. And I said, well, as soon as I finish this, I'm going to get on to Zoom. So I kind of lost track of time.
Are you, how many people do we have in the meeting today? 20?
You want to meet into a separate Zoom? We still have some parents on when we leave this meeting.
Yep.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Bye, Luis.